You ever think about taking a vacation in orbit? Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, when the Space Needle here in Seattle was built in 1962, back at the dawn of the space age, lots of people thought they would soon be taking trips just like that. Of course, it hasn't quite worked out that way. It cost about $500 million just to take the space shuttle out for a spin. Kind of an expensive vacation, isn't it? One, please. Thank you. But what if there was another way to get to space? And what if that way were as easy and as cheap as riding an elevator? Well, strange as it sounds, some people think this kind of trip might just be possible one day, thanks to something known as the space elevator. A 22,000-mile long cable that we could ride straight to outer space.
What we're talking about is building the biggest thing ever.
And what enables this big idea is the discovery of something so small you can't even see it with the naked eye. A new material called a carbon nanotube. Fueled by the promise of these tiny tubes, people are already working to turn the space elevator into a reality.
It's basically a fairly straightforward system once you get down to the nuts and bolts of it.
First, launch a satellite to geosynchronous orbit, 22,000 miles above Earth. Then, lower a cable or ribbon and attach it to a platform at sea. Clamped to the ribbon, elevator cars or climbers could carry people and payloads up and down. Lasers on the ground would beam energy wirelessly to solar cells on the underside of the climber, powering electric motors for the 22,000-mile journey. Okay, I know what you must be thinking. A 22,000-mile elevator ride? These people are nuts. Like, what would even hold it up? Well, the idea is not quite as crazy as it sounds.
Imagine I have a yo-yo in my hand. As you spin the yo-yo around, the body of the yo-yo is thrust outward, and the string connecting you to the yo-yo is held taut. Well, this is the same principle that would keep the space elevator up. We're basically making a planet-sized yo-yo.
A space elevator could be safer and cheaper than rockets, giving routine access to the solar system. Bringing this far-out idea down to Earth, NASA recently funded a competition in New Mexico to build and race space elevator prototypes. It was held at the X Prize Cup, a carnival of cutting-edge space technology. In the tradition of competitions that stretch farther back than Charles Lindbergh's transatlantic flight, the aim is to inspire new advances in technology.
Wow!
This year, teams of students and weekend inventors are vying for the $150,000 in prizes in the space elevator contest.
I heard about this competition and I thought, wow, you don't have to have $1 billion in an aerospace company to do this.
We're definitely at the cutting edge. You're going to see stuff go wrong today.
The racetrack is a 50-meter ribbon suspended from a crane. Teams had to design and build climbers, then race them to the top of the ribbon. In place of the laser that might otherwise power a real space elevator, they could use only energy from the sun or beam from the ground. The best time wins, as long as you go faster than 1 meter per second. One of the first to try their luck is a high school team from Germany, with an elevator sporting an intimidating solar panel and name.
Turbo crawler.
Turbo crawler?
Yes.
All right, that sounds mean. Sounds like it's gonna win.
Yes,
But as Turbo Crawler is about to take off, the wind picks up. Turbo Crawler gets out of hand, and the Germans are grounded, at least for the time being. Julie Belrose and her team from the University of Michigan are next to jump on the ribbon.
The whole big idea behind doing this is to get engineers in school to start working on this. At the end of this event, there are kids here who are going to know more about space elevator technology than NASA scientists are.
Julie's climber is powered by a dozen spotlights that each have to track the solar panels all the way up the ribbon.
Get on, man up!
The climber gets off to a good start. But the higher it rises, the harder it becomes to hit the solar panels with the spotlights to keep it going. After about 6 minutes of stopping and starting, the climber reaches the top.
We didn't make it in the time required, but one of the goals is to make it to the top, so we're very happy.
NASA's prize money is safe, at least until the contest resumes the next day. Now, if you think the whole idea of an elevator to space sounds like science fiction, you're right. It was popularized in the late 1970s in a sci-fi novel called The Fountains of Paradise by Arthur C. Clarke.
At last, we can build the space elevator, and then we will have a stairway to heaven, a bridge to the stars.
But as long as people have dreamed of building that bridge to the stars, no material existed to make a cable that's strong enough. That is, until we found that one of nature's most common atoms, carbon, was leading a secret life.
I wouldn't say carbon is promiscuous. I would just say it's very open-minded.
Carbon atoms just love to form extremely strong chemical bonds with one another. We knew they could be arranged in a lattice to form diamond, or in sheets to form graphite. But until recently, we had no idea they could also form tiny spheres called buckyballs, and tiny tubes called carbon nanotubes. Much stronger and lighter than steel, and able to conduct electricity, these cylinders of pure carbon have been called a wonder material, a new building block that might be used in everything from electronics to airplanes. But as a space elevator cable, carbon nanotubes have some big problems. The longest ones ever made are only a few centimeters, and joining them together end to end, one at a time, is simply not practical. So how would we ever use these tiny tubes to make a cable that's 22,000 miles long? Deep in the heart of Texas, scientists are taking a different approach to assembling carbon nanotubes.
It's the dream of the future, but it's an achievable dream.
To make a batch of carbon nanotubes, bake a silicon plate coated with iron particles at 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit in a special oven. Then add a dash of acetylene, a gas that contains carbon. When acetylene comes in contact with the iron, it releases its carbon atoms, which assemble, as seen here, into nanotubes. When the plate comes out, it's coated with a black soot that contains trillions of carbon nanotubes, all aligned vertically in what Ray Bachman calls a forest.
Think of a bamboo forest.
But unlike a real bamboo forest, the trees in a nanotube forest tend to stick together, thanks to a faint force operating at the nanoscale, called the van der Waals force. It's sort of like magnetism.
So when you pull one nanotube out, you pull its neighbors, and then they pull out their neighbors.
Pulling a whole row of nanotubes from the forest on the left, they can draw out a ribbon of pure carbon nanotubes, held together by nothing but the van der Waals force. This ribbon is less than 1,000th the thickness of a human hair, and it's stronger than steel. But can nanotube ribbons ever be made strong enough for a space elevator cable?
That is an unresolved question. But in science and technology, I've learned just never use the word never.
Back in New Mexico, the mood is more optimistic as the second day of the space elevator competition gets underway. Among those hoping to claim NASA's $150,000 prize is Brian Turner, captain of a truly homegrown team, the Kansas City Space Pirates.
I've got my dad, my stepdad, my mom, my uncle, great Uncle Max.
Uncle Max, I'm Neil Tyson.
Neil.
All right, you're one of the family affair. If you win, that probably means more to you than just getting the money.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I think.
Hoping to make their elevator sail up the ribbon, the Space Pirates pull out their secret weapon, 15 mirrors, each the size of a twin bed.
One person in each mirror.
Beaming sunlight to your collecting mirror,
right,
to the solar panels,
right,
giving the energy to climb.
Right. Are you ready? All right, here we go.
Halfway up the ribbon, the wind kicks in again.
Gotta get up there. I'm gonna go look at it this way.
Bouncing in the breeze, the parabolic mirror can't stay focused on the solar cells.
Come on.
The Pirate's elevator grinds to a halt.
Come on. If the wind hadn't been bucking, I might have been better off. But I can't believe I didn't make it to the top. I figured I could fight my way up there.
Next up, and favored to win, is the University of Saskatchewan Space Design Team, or USST for short.
Go time, right? It's go time.
Their secret weapon, a stationary mirror to reflect a spotlight straight up the ribbon to the solar array.
Back a little bit. Okay, back to
phase one.
Track.
It looks like they'd make it to the top in record time, fast enough to claim the $150,000 prize. So they win?
We have to have a little discussion about that.
Before the prize money can be awarded, the remaining teams get one last chance. The German turbocrawler crawls all the way to the top, but it's no prize winner. And late in the day, a team of high school students from California posts an impressive 2-minute run.
Pretty good that we got 2:02.
It's going on our resumes.
Yeah.
But in the end, the prize money went unclaimed because it turns out Saskatchewan fell just short of the minimum speed of 1 meter per second.
I mean, next year most of us are coming back, and we are going to just totally, take it up 2 notches and just go all out.
But will we ever take a ride in a real space elevator?
I think it's crazy, but I still think it's possible, and I think it's something that if we can do it, we should do it.
Well, one thing's for sure. We've got a long way to go before that happens. But who knows? Perhaps someday technology will catch up with our imaginations and take the space elevator out of the realm of science fiction once and for all.
A world lost in the vastness of the Pacific, home to the strangest life imaginable, governed by nature's brutal forces, islands which have transformed our understanding of life on Earth. The Galapagos lies remote, 600 miles off the coast of South America, straddling the equator. There are 13 main islands, sprinkled with more than 100 islets, rocks, and reefs. Each island has its own character. Some are cloaked in forests that conceal life. Others are smoldering giants, rugged and austere. It has been home to pirates, dragons, and Darwin finches, giant tortoises, the HMS Beagle, and Jack's Beanstalk. The Giant Machine is an artificial island nested in the archipelago of Galapagos. The base is 0.6 square miles and sits 700 feet tall. It is an assemblage of 8 cooperating functional zones facilitating the climb of objects onto space. The southern part of the Giant Machine functions as a transportation zone, including 3 docks for cargo ships and an airport with 1,000 feet of runway. This is the interface to the distant lands. When cargo reaches the transportation zone, conveyors shuttle objects internally between the 8 zones. Sorting, storing, inspecting, objects are prepared for the elevator. After final documentation of objects, the capsule will be attached to the climber. The capsule is moving on the conveyor belt. The launching zone is prepared to receive the capsule, while stabilizers restrain the head of the climber. The loading mechanism mounts the capsule. The tail is positioned below the climber for balance during the ascent. The rattling of the mechanisms are heard behind the whining of the wind. The tail curls. The carrier's arm gets attached to the head just after the launching platform rotates and takes its position for takeoff. This is the signal for the ground crew to begin filling the liquid oxygen tank and adjust the magnetic modules on the 221st sector. And we see the ascenders entering the climber through the access hatch. Stabilizers release the capsule slowly. It tenses itself upon the carbon nanotube ribbon and waits for synchronization. Inertial measurement alignment complete. Latitude and longitude of Launch Pad 39A at Space Elevator Base Station has been confirmed. Start Orbiteer Aero Surface Profile Test, followed by Main Engine Gimbal Profile Test. Climber Launch Sequencer is go for auto sequence start. Activate Launch Pad Sound Suppression System. Activate Main Engine Hydrogen Burn-Off System. Main Engine Start. 3, 2, 1, ascend. Between dusty clouds, we see a point on a line that seems to barely move. Undesirable objects, instead of being buried, are sent to the sky. Within 3 hours, the climber passes the ionosphere and reaches a final velocity of 300 miles per hour. It reaches its celestial destination in 4 days. The new space station is the castle at the top of the beanstalk. The giant has long since left. He has left all his treasure. Rules are different up here in the castle. Things are allowed that are not below. Experiments can be conducted. Thoughts can be entertained. To be giants ourselves, the ascenders climb the beanstalk. No longer merely human, the ascenders search for what might come after.